I want to read a text this morning from Paul's letter to the Romans. The 10th chapter, beginning with the 8th verse. But what does it say? The word is near you, on your lips, and in your heart. That is the word of faith that we proclaim. Because if you confess with your lips that Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For one believes with the heart, and so is justified, and one confesses with the mouth, and so is saved. The Scripture says no one who believes in him will ever be put to shame. For there is no distinction between Jews and Greeks. The same Lord is Lord of all, and is generous to all who call upon him. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. There were two little boys in kind of a small town one time. They were brothers. One was 10 and one was a little younger. They were into everything. They were the town rascals. Everybody knew it. It just didn't matter what came up. Everybody just automatically said, boy, they're into it. They did it. Well, there was a fire at the school. And the parents, of course, and everybody else said, well, they did it. They were into it. The parents were just at the end of their ropes. And somebody finally said, you need to send that oldest one to have a talk with the preacher. So she said, okay, I will. So she sent the 10-year-old to the church, made an appointment for him to have a talk with the preacher. The preacher to him was somebody that he had seen on Sunday in a black robe, an austere person, and the little boy was frightened. And so he went to the church, and he got in the preacher's office and sat down. And the preacher said, young man, where is God? And the little boy sat there for a few moments, and he didn't say anything. And the preacher said again, young man, where is God? And he still didn't say anything. He just sort of got on the end of his chair. And finally, raising his voice, the preacher said, young man, where is God? And the kid jumped up out of the chair and ran out of the office and out of the church and down the street to his house, into his room, grabbed his suitcase and started throwing all of his clothes in it. And his little brother said, what's going on? Where are you going? He said, you better get yours and pack too. He said, they've lost God, and I'll tell you one thing, they're fixing to blame it on us. So the kid, I guess, felt, they've lost God, it's going to be our fault. But, we have to stop and think this morning, is there a sense in which we have lost God? And is there a sense in which we must bear the responsibility and the blame? This world is full of things that make us believe that we have lost God. They are big things. And you see them every day and you hear them every day. And the thing is brought home to us so strong that it shakes our foundations, that obviously we must have lost God. But there were little things that should have been signs and signals to us before the big thing started to happen. I know I'm going to sound old-fashioned now, but do you remember when stores were closed on Sunday? It's a little thing, is it not? Stores didn't open on Sunday. That was the Sabbath. The Sabbath? That was the day when people went to church or they rested. They got together as families. And then the stores started opening at 1 o'clock after church time, so that people who had to work could at least go to church on Sunday morning. And if we had to go, then we could go in the afternoons after church. Little thing. I grant you it's a little thing. But now it has changed. And they're open all day now. You can go find anything you need today at any time during the day. It's a little thing, but it was a sign. Just a little sign and a little symbol of how we felt about what was important. And it's a little bitty sign of how we even felt about God. I knew a couple that moved from Port Neches to Denver a few years ago. They were very active in the Methodist Church and had been all their lives. But when they moved to Denver and put their son in school up there, they were shocked to find that football practice in their school system took place on Sunday morning. It just was the thing that was done there on Sunday morning. You know, I don't know how many channels you've got on your TV. If you've got cable, you've got a whole bunch. But if you were not here this morning and you decided to stay home, try to find a good church service this morning on TV. You can find anything else you want to watch. You might be lucky to find one good, suitable church service. Some of that is thanks to our TV evangelist friends, but not altogether. What about prime time TV? Have you sat down much during the week to watch prime time? One of those prime time TV sit comedies, as they call them, has just really gotten to me. It's Murphy Brown. She is expecting a baby, and she is not married. And that's been blown up as this is perfectly okay. This is the way to live. This is the way life is now. While we fight and struggle, a whole country, and Texas leads the nation in teenage mothers, now 10, 12, and 13 years old. But that's prime time. That's what we see. And that's there as okay. Somebody told me not very long ago that I ought to watch The Simpsons. They said, have you watched The Simpsons? It's just the funniest thing you've ever seen. Well, one night I decided to sit down and watch The Simpsons. I didn't see anything funny at all. I know it's directed to young audiences, but it was just one of the dumbest things I've ever tried to look at. I hope you don't watch it, with me telling you how dumb it is. But there was a line on The Simpsons not very long ago. They sat down together to have supper, and he said the blessing. I didn't see this one. I read about it. And the blessing was, Lord, we've bought all of this stuff with our own money. Thanks for nothing. That's aimed at young minds. That's a nation. And that's what we're looking at. Does that say, have you lost God? I know it's a little thing. I grant you it's a little thing, maybe. But it's the little things that are throwing up signals and signposts, saying to us, hey, where is God? Have you lost him? Paul says that if the land knows about God, it will be because we have confessed with our mouths that Jesus is the Christ. It won't be the atheists that do us in. It's not even going to be the media that do us in or cause us problems. It's going to be us who are Christians. Until we make living the Christian life an absolutely fashionable thing to do. And I mean fashionable in the positive sense. Until it is the thing to do. It is the thing people see and know and want. These other things aren't going to do us in. We are going to do ourselves in if it happens. We can talk about anything in the world with pretty good freedom. But we are not comfortable talking about God. We are not comfortable talking about the work of the church. We are not comfortable about talking about God's Spirit in us. Have we, in a sense, also lost God? There's a butterfly called a Killamur butterfly. It's beautiful. On top of its wings, the most beautiful colors you've ever seen. But when it flies, you can also see those colors. But underneath the wings is a drab gray brown. When that butterfly lights on a tree and folds its wings, it looks like a dead leaf. Just a dead leaf. When it flies, it's colorful. When it sits on the limb, it's like a dead leaf. On Sunday, we sometimes put our colors out. This morning, you are all Christians. You have gone to church. This city this morning has a number of people in it who are Christians this morning. They have gone to church. Our colors are out. But tomorrow, will you draw your colors in? And like that butterfly, will anybody know that we are Christians? I just got through reading a book that I read probably 20 years ago. It was sitting around. I couldn't find anything to read, so I pulled it out and read it again. It's called The Bishop's Mantle. It's about an Episcopal priest. He is called to a large parish in a city, and in the process of getting to know his board members, he finally determines that the man who is chairman of his board and who is a very wealthy, influential man in the city, been a part of that church for years, long before he got there. But he finds that just behind the church is a section of tenements, horrible, run-down tenements, where there is no air conditioning in the summer. Some rooms don't even have windows in them, no heat in the winter, rat-infested. And he finds the chairman of his board owns those tenements. And he also finds that he owns 2 buildings that are used as red light districts in the city. And he is chairman of the church board. And he tries to decide, what do I do? Do I forget it? And talking to a couple of board members, they said, yeah, you better forget it. You're just going to get yourself in trouble. Just let it go, let it drop. But he got to thinking, and his conscience said to him, you cannot let it drop. You must talk to the man. He goes and talks to him. The man becomes angry, of course. He tries to get him, get out of that. Turn yourself around. You're a leader in the church. The man refuses to do so. He feels he has but one choice, and that is to sit down with the other board members in that church and say, he must either relinquish those things that are a part of his life, or he must not be chairman of the board in this church. Those 2 things do not go together. The board backed him after a struggle, and the man resigned. That's difficult to do. But you can't just have your colors on Sunday. You got to have them on Monday and Wednesday and the rest of the week. You see, it's the phonies among us that hurt us the most. Not the old sinner out there. It's the phonies among us. It is those of us who live shabby lives, who don't have ethics. That's what hurts us. Those of us who put the colors out sometimes but fold them in. And that's hard to do. It's hard on me, it's hard on you, it's hard on all of us, and it is a constant struggle. In June of 1944, there was a battle in the Philippines, the Philippine Sea. The Japanese fleet was in retreat. And on the afternoon of June 20th, 1944, the planes from an aircraft carrier were sent out in pursuit of that fleet. But before they returned, it got dark. They had nothing to guide them back to the aircraft carrier. An admiral had his orders. No lights after dark. A complete blackout. But he sat on that carrier and said, those men cannot come home unless the lights are on. They'll never find the ship. He gave an order to turn the lights of that carrier on, no matter the consequences. Those men returning, when they got home, said it was suddenly unbelievable. As they were in the dark sky, and they said suddenly it was like a Hollywood premiere, a Chinese New Year, and the 4th of July, all rolled into one as the lights on that carrier came on. And they found the place to land. 80 planes ran out of gas and had to ditch in the sea. But they were close enough to home with the lights that most of the men were rescued and saved because somebody turned the lights on. That's our job. Paul says you not only confess with your mouth, you do that because you've believed in your hearts. Someone has said, I will never believe in the Redeemer of the Christians until they show me they have deemed. There was a trial in a small town many years ago. The judge was ready to swear in the first witness. He said to the bailiff, get the Bible and swear the witness in. They couldn't find the Bible. Looked everywhere in the courtroom, couldn't find it. The judge got aggravated, and he finally said, go down to the county clerk's office and get old Ed and bring him up here. So the bailiff took off. Old Ed was an elder in the local Presbyterian church, had been as long as anybody could remember. He was a perfect, shining example of living the Christian life. And the bailiff came back with old Ed in tow. And the judge said, Ed, you've taught more people in this town the Bible than all the Bibles have. Sit down over there, and I want that witness to put his hand on your head and take the oath.